Right, good afternoon guys. Just going to follow up with that masculinity video that I did last weekend, which by the way, if you haven't listened to it, it's really good and it kind of lays the foundation of some of what I'm talking about in this video. But it's an idea called capacity and how men should build capacity. But capacity in itself is not enough. And this is why people will commonly critique the kind of gym bro culture and the quote unquote heavily emphasized toxic masculinity, because I think people see these men that are building genuinely good capacity. You know, they're learning how to fight, they're learning how to train, or they are training, they're building businesses and stuff, and they're like, what's it all for? And that's why it's very important to integrate the idea of capacity with that broader vision of masculinity and service. But here is why capacity is such an important concept to understand, especially for young men. Because a lot of times when you're young, and look, I've spoken to even older gentlemen who fall into the same bag, that you often don't know what that capacity is for. You might not have a clear awareness of your vocation, whether that be professional or relational. You don't have an idea of that divine service which you're called to. So what are you going to do in the meantime? Build capacity. What does capacity look like? Well, it's really basic, and it's all the stuff that I always talk about on my channel, but are you cultivating a life of prayer? Are you ensuring that the stupid black box in your hand right now watching this video isn't frying your dopamine pathways and destroying your ability to focus and pay attention? Because that'd be a really good start. Are you developing your capacity physically? You know, are you going to the gym? Are you doing cardiovascular exercise? Are you learning a martial art? You know, that's a physical capacity that you can build up. And then in terms of skills and career, interpersonal skills, transferable skill sets, learn how to market, learn how to do sales, learn how to do a trade. Just learn, apply yourself diligently to a career, to your study. And you may not end up doing what you're doing. You might end up on the other side of the world doing a job that you never imagined that you'd do. But if you diligently spent, like, what's the average age for marriage? 25, 28 years old. If you spend those 10 years from 18 to 28, and you imagine that you're grinding with the same level of passion as a guy who has to feed 5 kids, you're grinding with focus and attention every single day. You're not doing self-destructive habits like playing video games or wasting your time or drinking, where you're genuinely working to cultivate and honor those talents that are within you, cultivating the soil of your soul. By the time you get to 25 or 28 years old, you know, if you're watching this and you're still a teenager, you've got your whole life ahead of you. What would you be like if you invested all of that time in diligent, productive leisure and work, and if you honored God with every single minute of your day? What would you be like in 5 or 10 years? And you don't have any idea. You have no idea who you'd become. But here is what you do have an idea about. The next, or the 16 hours in front of you of your waking day, every single day. And the reality is that most guys are throwing that day down the drain. And when it does get to the point, let's say you get married in your mid to late 20s or early 30s, let's say you do get, you know, into your career, if you haven't spent the time beforehand building capacity, most people don't or haven't got the ability or intention to build capacity once they're within that vocation. And that's unfortunate, because that's not necessarily the case, but that's why you have the stereotype of the dad that's kind of low energy, low testosterone. You know, he's ticking the box, he's got money in the bank and he's putting food on the table, but he might not have the energy or capacity, there's the word, to contribute to something greater outside of himself, whether that be his broader community, his parish, some non-profit, some charity, the church. And that's really difficult, because that's a whole generation of men, you know. And if 90 to 95% of them are so tapped out because they don't have the capacity to give back, then whose shoulders do the institutions fall on? you know, do the good works of the church, education, successful businesses, not just employees, you know. It's the real visionaries and the hard workers and the people that cultivate the talents that build the businesses that employ people. In some ways, the person that employs you, you know, he's actually the one that's providing the value to the community, because he's been able to create value for someone else or some other country in a way that he needs to hire people to be able to do that. And that's capacity. He's built that capacity. And that's why it's so important that you invest your time and energy when you're young to build your capacity. Because then when you do get presented with the vocation, with the marriage, with the projects outside of work, instead of saying I don't have time or I don't have energy, you actually say, actually, yeah, I've done this before, or actually I do have a couple of spare hours, or I have the time management and the focus where I could dedicate, you know, this amount of time or this set of resources to helping push this off the ground. And I guess that's something that I'm encountering now, is that not only in the people that I'm mentoring, but even people, you know, within some of the communities that I interact with, is that, what's that quote? All throughout a good man's life are gravestones that mark where a good deed, a noble deed, was left undone through lack of energy or vigor. So all throughout a good man's life, someone with good intentions are the gravestones of noble deeds that could have been done, that could have been accomplished, was it not for his lack of energy, was it not for his lack of drive, from his lack of thumos, for his lack of capacity, for his lack of ownership. And that's something that only God can judge in your heart. But I really want to give you this vision right now in just a short video, that we have a responsibility and a duty to cultivate this capacity, because we don't know what God is going to call us to. I don't know what God is going to call me tomorrow, but I hope that what I was able to do today has put me in the best position possible, whether that be my judgment and I meet my Creator, or whether that be a specific task that required my discipline and my commitment all throughout the past day, week, month, year, to be able to fulfill that. And that's why all you can do is control the time that is given to you diligently, and grow in capacity and grow in virtue. That is all you can do. That is all that is in your control. Sufficient unto today is the evil thereof. Do not worry about tomorrow, but build today. Be focused today. Train today. So that's what I'll leave you with. Check out my other videos. Make sure you check the CTAs down in the description. We've got the Legion, got one-on-one mentorship application, and St. Michael's Troops and other kinds of men's events running across New Zealand and Australia. God bless.